I'm in the service. It is June 1st, Wednesday, June 1st. So Mr. Christiansen, just tell us a little bit about where you grew up as a kid, what high school you went to, and a little bit about your family.
Well, I graduated from Lowell High School in '42, and it was just my wife Jackie and daughter Sandy is in Kansas City, and then Robin is in Kansas, Arizona. And then I went in the Marine Corps January of '43.
So, why did you decide to enlist in the Marine Corps?
Well, there was a war on, and I thought I might do my part, I guess.
Why'd you pick the Marine Corps?
I don't know, I always liked the Marine Corps.
So, what day did you leave for the Marines?
To go overseas?
Yeah, or what day did you leave to go do your training?
Oh, I left here in January of '43.
And what were the first days of training like?
It's just what they say in boot camp, and you get indoctrinated rather quickly.
So, do you remember any of your instructors there?
Only that they were pretty mean.
They were mean. So, how did you get through all of it? Just mental toughness and.
Well, I don't know. I guess you might say that, but it's not that difficult.
And so you were sent overseas. When did you leave to go overseas, and where was your first stop?
Phew. I don't know what the date would have been to go overseas. I can't recall, but the first stop was just about that, a stop. Guadalcanal was our first stop, but we weren't there very long. That was pretty well secured. And then went up to Bougainville, both in the Solomons. And I was there most of the time overseas because they were flying a lot of ground support and bomb runs out of Bougainville. In fact, I think Boynton used to fly the Corsairs out of Bougainville, unless I'm mistaken.
So what were your first reactions to the Solomon Islands?
Well, I don't know. It's certainly entirely different than anything you've seen. Mostly just half jungle. We didn't see any towns, cities. Just the beach and the inland ways, and then they established the flights. Then not long after that, went to the Philippines, then up to China.
Did you have the same job throughout this, or what was your jobs?
The job was primarily field telephone, which is, you're not talking to generals, it's just hardwire between the troops, wherever you're advancing or whatever, mainly to coordinate whatever the troops are doing. You're not chatting with generals or anything.
So what was your title then?
Oh, I was just a sergeant.
A sergeant? Okay. So did you see combat then?
Well, some, but not a great deal. It was fairly secure when we got there, and then we took care of the perimeter where they were flying, and it wasn't any, the beachhead had already happened, where they came on and took most of the island. So then it was a little left, but
Okay.
it wasn't a big, I wasn't in any real big time combat, no.
Okay. Well, the little combat you were in, what was that like? Was it a stressful time, or?
Well, you really don't think about it too much. You just, people shoot at you and you shoot at people, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't give it a lot of thought. You kind of thinking of just getting out of there.
Were there any casualties in your unit?
Actually, not very many. As I say, most of the combat, like in Bougainville, was pretty well over. It was quite secure.
Okay.
But there was some, and we did lose some, but it wasn't like the original landing on Bougainville.
Right.
There they lost numerous Marines, but not when we were there.
As a fellow Marine, how do you deal with other Marines being killed on the battlefield?
Well, you hate to see it terribly, especially when you see somebody you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's tough.
It's got to be tough. Were you awarded any medals or awards?
No, just theater medals. No Silver Star or that.
You said theater medals?
Huh?
Did you say?
Well, you get the theater, like the consolidation of the Solomons, whatever theater or war, but it's not really a medal.
Wow. Well, that's really neat.
But it's not like as I say, a Silver Star or Purple Heart or any of that.
So let's talk a little bit about what your family back home was like. How did you stay in touch with them through this time?
Well, of course, I wasn't married. I was 18 years old when I went in. And, so I wrote letters occasionally, but not too much. But your writing facilities aren't always right there.
Yeah. And what was the food like over there?
It really wasn't all that bad if you were on, if you had a base and they had a mess hall, then you got what they call C rations, which is, they're not individual, they come in a box, but they have the cook them up. If not, you eat K rations, which are not any kind of a meal. So, you wouldn't go over there for the food.
No, that's for sure. Were you did you have plenty of supplies though your whole time there? Were you ever short on anything?
No, not really. You don't need much. Some food and some bullets.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah. Was there anything special to you that you carried over there as a good luck charm or anything that you had a lot of sentimental value?
No, I did have one very small, like 8 by 10 or something, a small American flag that I carried.
That's nice.
I can't recall who gave it to me. I had that most of the time. That was about it.
So, on what little free time you guys did have, how did you entertain yourselves?
Well, there's no way to entertain yourself if you're over there. If you got paid, you entertain yourself shooting crap, but otherwise, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
When we got to China, why then we were near Tientsin, and that's a large city, and there's a lot of things there.
Did you have a leave during this period of time?
I think I had one furlough.
What'd you do on that, or how?
I think that was just before I went overseas. I had one furlough, and then I went back, and then went overseas, and the war ended when I was in China, and then came back and got out of the discharge. So.
Do you recall anything humorous or unusual while you were over there?
Well, some things are kind of humorous. I don't know offhand, except I can remember laughing. We used to joke around a lot, especially when we got to China. But otherwise, if you were on the islands, you didn't. You weren't joking too much. But up there, the war was over.
Yeah.
Then we partied down, as you say.
What did you think of your officers or your fellow soldiers?
Well, I liked all of them. Actually, I had very little to do with officers. In field telephone, that guy is a wire chief. We'll just call him a wire chief. And I had to be a master sergeant. And he handles everything. There's an officer over communication somewhere, but we don't, in the field, have anything to do with them very much. They saw the guy ahead of who was just called wire chief, and he was head of all the telephone and communication, so didn't see too many officers.
Did you keep a diary at all during that time?
No, I sometimes wish I would have, but I didn't.
So you did the bulk of your service part on the Solomon Islands.
Yeah, overseas, mostly it was on Bougainville.
Okay, Bougainville.
Because they were flying ground support out of Bougainville. And as I say, they did bomb runs, so we were there quite a while.
And then you headed up to China?
Went to the Philippines first, but in the meantime they had taken Iwo Jima, and so that's roughly 600 miles from Japan, so they started doing all the flying out of there because they could get that far. And then we went to the Philippines for just a stop, and then went to China.
What'd you do up in China then? Was the war pretty
Well,
much?
the war was ending as we were getting there.
Okay.
So the war was over. We never fired a shot in China. I mean, it was just, and we just set up our communications. Because we had the airport and some outposts and Tientsin and the village outside, and where we were, which is an old French arsenal that we stayed in.
So your final days were in China then? Do you recall the last day of your service?
Yeah, the war was over, of course, and it was 46. And my dad had a bad stroke, so the Red Cross contacted me, so I flew from China back home. As I say, the war was over then, and then I just went to Great Lakes for discharge. But I can remember flying out because there were three of us that had been through the whole thing together. We stayed in the same room together, and then of course, we had our little Chinese buddy who would come and I don't know if I say he took care of us or we took care of him. I don't know. He'd come out and want to do things, So but he was a good little kid. We had a little pot-bellied stove in that room. Was all we had for heat. So he'd come in early in the morning and he'd get that fire going, so we didn't have to get up in the cold. But it was good. He was typical of those kids. They had absolutely nothing. So we bought him clothes, and then we had a bathroom right there off of my room. So we gave him towels and washcloths. So when he'd come for the day, get all polished up, and then come in and build our fire. And then we'd finally roll out of bed. But
were you ever in touch with him after you left?
Huh?
Did you ever stay in touch with him after you left?
No, it would have been nice, but it would have been almost impossible.
Yeah.
In those days. Mao was just starting to stir, and so it's hard to tell what really happened to it.
So upon your return home, what did you do in the days and weeks after you returned?
Well, as I say, my father had that stroke, and he had a business in Lowell, so I didn't hardly have an alternative. I didn't like the business, but what are you going to do? I mean, he couldn't do it. And so I worked there till we could get somebody to take it and do it. I hated it. So then went from there. But
Did you go to school then after that, or did you start working?
well, I thought about it, but it was a few years late. I mean, if I'd have gone, I immediately came home, I would have gone to school. But I guess I didn't think I needed it. But anyway, I didn't. And but I always had decent jobs. I went to Alaska for about 5 or 6 years, and that was pretty good money up there, what you made. So, but I didn't go to school.
Do you remember having any one close friend while in the service?
Well, I would say 2 of them. One's in Virginia, one's in West Virginia. And we've gotten together twice, I guess, is all. After the war, I'd go down there and pick the one up in West Virginia, and then we'd go over to see the other one in Virginia. And
So did you join a veterans organization after? Or?
Oh, I belonged to the VFW, the American Legion. So that's it.
Your experience in the military, does that affect how you think of war now? Or did that change how you think of war like today?
Well, no, not really. I think it's one thing that's necessary. The one they're having now, I'm not going to second guess anybody whether they should be or not be there. I'm a military thinking guy anyway, and it's no fun over there what you're going through, and they have to be respected for what they're doing. Whether you like the war or not, you get taken out on them. They're just doing what they're told.
That's right. Yeah. What activities does your post or association have, like the VFW? What activities do you guys do?
Not very many. I'm not really all that active. The way I'm feeling, not getting around too well anyway. I don't go to too many meetings. I did in the beginning, but lately I haven't.
Do you ever attend any reunions with the people you served with, or do you just meet?
No, we never had one. I talked to people that have gone to theirs, but we just never had one. I guess if you look at, I forget what magazines they come out with. It has reunions. It tells what reunions are coming up. But I've never been to one. And not sure they ever had one.
How did your service or experiences affect your life? Do you think it was something worthwhile? And I mean, we obviously all appreciate what you did. But how did it affect your life?
Well, I don't see it had any great effect except for the time I was in. But and of course, there was no argument about that war, whether we should or shouldn't. They just bombed us. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So, but it didn't really change anything. It probably did in a way. I didn't go to school right after high school, and I don't know what I would have done really. I'm not sorry about anything that's happened anyway.
Well, we thank you for your time. We thank you for your time in the military too. And
well, I thank you very much.
we're glad we could get your story on tape for you.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
So we're glad we can get your story on tape for you.
The following oral military history project is a series of documentaries in association with the Lowell area men and women who proudly served and sacrificed part of their lives to preserve the opportunities for all of us to build our businesses and raise our families under a blanket of freedom. For reservations and more information, contact the Lowell Area Historical Museum at 616-897-7688.